Hello and welcome. Bilaron here for TBP, and it's the final part of the positional fundamentals series. So today we are going to analyze how to play the heads-up big blind position in a raised pot. Right? So let's see what we are doing today. We'll take a look at our ranges, how we defend versus 2x. So what kind of hands we rejam, what kind of hands we call, what kind of hands we fold. And then even more important, what kind of hands do we want to defend when facing a 3x raise? Because this is very, very common, especially on the low stakes. The recreationals love the 3x, and we need to be prepared, right? We need to know what kind of range they have and how we should play against that. And then we are going to post-flop, facing a small c-bet. So how do we react when we face a small c-bet? How do we react when we face a big c-bet? And after that, we'll analyze how to play when our opponent is checking back. So we have an opportunity to probe. When should we probe? When should we check? What kind of hands and what kind of sizings? And last week, you had a very nice check bet exploit from Sido in the limp pots, where you should c-bet 100% of the time. And now we will explore if this is also true for the raised pots, or if we should be a little bit more careful. And last but not least, facing barrels. Okay, so how do we play the turn when our opponent is barreling again, or how do we play the river, the river when it goes like bet. Okay, so that's the plan, and you see a lot of points. So let's get going. Defend versus 2x raise, 16 BBs plus. So we are deep. First hand in a game, and we busted the third player, and we are heads up, right? So our opponent is open raising, and this is the range we should defend more or less, right? You should know now that, I mean, you already got a lot of coachings that the charts are just a guideline. So we need to adapt, but this is already a pretty good, pretty good baseline. So we are folding the weakest hands. However, with the 2x raise, we still have pretty good odds. So we should still defend a pretty wide range. So we are not folding a king, right? So we are defending every king. And we are also calling most of the queen highs. If you have a very if you have a very uncomfortable opponent who's like betting a lot post flop and with big sizings, etc., there's really no shame in folding a couple of the bottom hands as well, because these are quite marginal to play. So if you're folding a queen 4, a queen 5, maybe a jack 6 off, or a 6-4 off, 7-5 off, and this is actually quite good with these type of opponents. Okay, so what kind of hands do we want to rejam? And here, this is for all stake sizes, 16 BBs plus. However, I would make a little bit of a difference how deep you actually are, right? So under 20 big blinds, I think this is very, very good range, because it has a good risk to reward ratio. You'll still get a couple of folds with your rejam. And if you're getting called with a hand, for example, like 3s, 4s, or deuces, you flip you flip most of the time. So that's quite good under 20 big blinds. However, if you're over 20 big blinds deep, I will probably cut a couple of these hands and just call them, just because I don't want to risk my 25 big blind stack and maybe run into bigger pocket pairs or just flip versus my opponent, right? So the bigger the stack sizes are, the tighter I'm going to rejam and the more post flop I want to play. Same for the ace axis. So this is perfectly fine for like 16 to 20 big blinds to rejam a hand like ace 9 and ace 9 suited. However, as soon as you are going over 20, I will probably just call the ace 9 and maybe even the ace 10 and just play them post flop and just rejam the very, very strongest hands. Let's also take a little bit the jacks plus into consideration. One very important point: we don't want to balance the non-all-in 3-betting range. So no bluffs versus recreationals, please. And also no bluffs versus regulars at the lowest stakes, right? So we play very, very exploitative here. we just raising. So if someone is min raising, we 3-bet to 5 big blinds. So from 2 big blinds to from 2 big blinds to 5 big blinds, and we do this exclusively with hands like aces, kings, queens, and jacks. And then we play post flop. So yes, very wide range at 16 BB plus. How do we play when we are getting a little bit shorter? And this is the range that you see in our charts at 10 to 13 big blinds, right? So we want to definitely fold a couple more offsuited hands here, right? So now we fold the queen 4, queen 5 always, and also like the offsuited like 9-6 off, 10-6 off, jack-6 off. And you see we also rejam way wider. And again, like we have a very good risk to reward ratio. And if we rejam a hand like ace-4 off, we are also getting called by a lot of worse hands from our opponents, right? So they will call a hand like queen 10 off probably to our rejam, etc. So this is a very good rejamming range. However, I think this is not really necessary to always rejam a hand like king 10 off, king jack off, king 10 suited, for example. If you have a very good feeling to your opponent, or if he is more on the tighter side, I think it is very beneficial to just call these hands and play them post flop. If you hit a good king or a good 10, you can play them. You can play them for value, right? So these charts are not set in stone. You need to adapt to your specific opponents. Okay. So that's basically it for how we play with the 2x versus the 2x raise. We call a very wide range. And most common mistakes from beginners is to fold too much, especially the suited hands. We are not folding a suited hand to a min raise. And I see this mistake for beginners very often, that you are folding hands like 9-3 suited, 8-2 suited, or also quite strong hands like queen 6 off, for example, right? So these hands are all strong enough. We have very good odds, and it's still quite cheap to see the flop. Yes, very wide range. But as soon as our opponent is raising bigger, we need to tighten up our range quite a bit. And I'll just do it for the 3x. And if someone has the raise size in between, it will be a mix between this range and this range, right? So a little bit looser than this, but tighter than the 2x range. And yeah, so with the 3x, we definitely start to fold a couple of suited hands, right? So the weakest suited hands we are folding. And if you feel a little bit uncomfortable with certain opponents, there's definitely not a shame to fold these kind of hands here as well, like 6-2 suited, 9-5, 10-4, 5 deuce. These hands don't perform very well. Like they are profitable to call, but pretty marginally profitable. So folding them is really not a mistake. With some opponents, it is even good to do so. Same for like king 7 off and 8-7 off. These hands are pretty marginal, and with some opponents, I might even fold a couple of offsuited ace-x's. Especially when I expect that my opponent is very strong in his 3x, then I might even fold a couple of ace-x hands. And here you see a red cross. Nowadays, I wouldn't rejam the deuces, 3s, and 4s anymore, because when someone is 3xing from the small blind, then we normally don't have too much fold equity anymore. And with deuces to 4s, we are flipping most of the time. So this is something I don't really want with weak opponents, and therefore I would simply fold these hands. The price is pretty bad to calling. We can't really call, and set mine, maybe calling the 4s, but deuces and 3s, I would probably just open fold here. Okay, so you see we are playing a very tight range, and this is like a very good sum up. Defend very wide with the 2x range and very tight with the 3x range. As simple as that.